Welcome to USA Biz Party, the party after the party, the chat after the chat. I am your host, Anna Scheller, and I'm so excited that you're joining me, whether you're with me live or you're on the replay. We're so glad that you could join us today. Now, normally we do this immediately after our chat, which is every Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, runs to about 2. And then we normally get on with a guest or we have some kind of dialogue discussion. Unfortunately, the day we did this activity, our guest found herself, in all places, in the emergency room. She's okay now, but I just want you to know that, even productivity experts occasionally have slip-ups. So I want to introduce and welcome to my stage Georgie-Ann Getton. Georgie-Ann, thank you for joining.
Yeah, so thank you so much for having me. And, I'm happy to be here. I'll tell the story in just a moment once you finish the intro of how I ended up in the ER and where I am now, my journey.
I know, right? It just seems like things just happen. You are an execution expert, which I love that idea. I can't wait to dive into that. You're a mom, which I have a big heart for, and a virtual event production expert. And her signature line is, so I'll let you fill in some of the blank. It's let's get stuff done, but she uses a different word than I did. But the bottom line is let's get stuff done. Let's be productive, because have you ever gotten to the end of the day and you thought, dang, I didn't get a darn thing done. And you go to bed frustrated. And the problem is all that stuff's still hanging out in your head when you probably got more done than you thought, but you probably need more of a system to get started. So Georgie-Ann, talk to us about, well, now everybody's curious. How did you end up in the emergency room?
Yes. So it was a very dramatic Tuesday. I think it was Tuesday. Actually, no, it wasn't. I was washing the dishes before I got started on my day. My kids and everyone had just eaten breakfast. I was getting ready to wash the dishes, started washing the dishes, and one of my cremate cups broke and cut into my finger. So I'm going to try to get it, it's healed up now, but I ended up having to get about 3 stitches on my finger because it was bleeding. It was cut pretty deep and I had to go to the ER. I'm like, I can still make it to the live session. I'm just going to run into the ER, come back home. It's a block away from my house and we'll be all good. But of course, an emergency room does take time. And so, it was taking longer. And I was like, I should actually just take a little moment to actually heal up. When you're a productivity expert or an execution expert or just an entrepreneur in general, you think you could keep going at all times. Like, let me just keep going. I could work through this. And I was at one point I dialed in from the ER and I'm like, this is a bad idea. This is not going to work out. Let's just reschedule, right? We could have folks watch this at a different time or a different day, but to try to do all of that at the same time was just ridiculous. And so I'm happy it all worked out. I am better now and I'm here and super excited to be on this talk with the USA Biz Party with you, Anna.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah. And, I think that actually is a good illustration of sometimes to be productive, we just really have to realize that being present in the moment, I think we might even get to that, but being present in the moment is so much more important. And actually, we get there's this illusion of multitasking, like, okay, I can do my phone and I can write and I can do this. And I mean, how many of us have been on a Zoom call, right? And we make sure that just our picture is showing so nobody can see that we're answering emails, we're taking notes, we're doing all this stuff. But I'm really super glad that you are here with us. And I met you through the Small Business Supercharge. I was super impressed with the things that you shared at the Small Business Supercharge. And so, but one of the questions before we dig into some of that, one of the questions I had that we discussed on the USA Biz Party, the one that you unfortunately had to bow out of, was how do I get more time? I think everybody wants to be able to get more time. What's your take on that?
Yeah. So as far as the getting more time, right, I'm going to say the annoying quote that we all know of, You only got 24 hours in the day. But if you've heard the second part of that, a lot of people will say, Beyonce's 24 hours looks a lot different from my 24 hours or your 24 hours. And that goes to say you have to do things like outsource, right? You have to outsource, you have to automate, you have to allow technology to do certain things for you. And then you also just have to bow out gracefully certain times. Like you have to say, okay, this is important. This I have to do. This has to wait, and this has to be done by something or someone else that's just not even me. And that's how you get back more time. And I'll give like an example. Just the other day, when again, I'll go straight back to the example of getting injured. I'm like, okay, do I try to kind of multitask, right? Trying to get stitches in 1 minute while waiting for doctors, while, trying to figure out my childcare because I have to get impromptu childcare to then go to the ER, while also trying to do this session and be present for the folks that are on the live. And I'm like, that's 3 things that I'll be trying to do at the same time. Is it worth it? Can I bow out gracefully in certain areas? So I had someone follow up with the childcare, I had someone follow up with the USA Biz Party, and I just focused in on that one specific thing. Get the stitches, get out of here, figure out what my cleaning and care protocol is, and then come back to all of the other things I need to come back to at another time and date. So that was just one example of delegating and then just outsourcing, and then also bowing out gracefully at the same time. So in order to get back your time, you have to just be really strategic and really stingy, right? You have to be really stingy with your time, because no matter what role you play, whether you're the CEO or the secretary, you need to know what you can do, what is urgent to do, what doesn't need to be done, and what does not need to be done by you. And then putting things into those different buckets and then allocating that time. So that way your 24 hours then amplifies by, okay, Hootsuite. Let's say you have to do scheduled social media. 3 hours that the social media is pushing out content. Now you have 27 hours added to your 24 because you don't have to do that task. It's automated. You have somebody doing childcare. You have a nanny. You have a support system there. That's another 8 hours. So now you have 27 plus 8. We're at 35 hours, right? So now you see how you're extending your day by delegating, outsourcing, and just simply bowing out gracefully from different activities.
And there are people that really they're waiting to help us.
Mm-hmm.
It's sometimes we think like we're dumping stuff on people, but we're really not. So right now, my daughter's home from college and she actually helps me with USA Biz Party. And we needed to go out of town the day before yesterday. And yeah, this week, just this week. And then I realized that I have, because of all the travels I've been doing, I had to get some things done. So I said, hey, would you like to earn some money? And of course, that was all she needed to hear. And so she drove while I worked. So I got to work and I got a lot done. I bought back that hour and I didn't have to pay a ton of money to get that hour. Sometimes though, we think, I'm the only one that can do it right and I'll get it done faster. You want to talk to that for a minute and then we'll dive into the pillars of getting stuff done?
Yes, I'd love to talk about the whole I'll get it done faster. You have to just again quantify your hour versus someone else's hour. And I'm not trying to say, there's like a hierarchy here or you're better than in that type of sense, but it's simply the fact that you're better suited for certain things and other people are better suited for other things. I love my children to the moon and back. Has pandemic living with, trying to homeschool a 4-year-old and a 5-year-old been difficult? Yes. So I had to outsource certain of those tasks. So we hired a nanny that would come and help out. And now as things go back in person, they're going back to school. They're going back to daycare. So I'm not going to think, okay, I can take on these roles and I could do it faster or better. No, there's a specialized person that is great with childcare and they're an expert at that. I do my part as mom, and then there are childcare experts. Then when it comes to the work that I do, technology expert, execution expert, the childcare expert couldn't step into my shoes because that's just not how it's set up. And I can't step into their shoes either. So we have to understand that we have specialized skills and that you may be able to do certain things faster, but there are ways to train someone to do it either as fast as you or fast enough that it gets done, right? What is really, let's say, again, go back to social media scheduling. what is it if it takes you 20 minutes to schedule 40 posts, but it takes your virtual assistant an hour to do it, but your virtual assistant is at a fraction of the cost, where you could be making, closing a $10,000, $15,000 deal in that hour, and your virtual assistant is maybe costing you between $15 and $25 an hour. You have to look at the opportunity costs. So that's definitely something you have to look at, and not just faster, but what is overall more efficient based on price, time, and just overall productivity.
Exactly. I actually was faced with that. So I have a consulting team I work with, and I was telling them about some things that I needed to get done. And I said, now, Anna, Anna. And I'm like, what this time? They said, is that really the best use of your time? Is that something that's going to help you grow your company? Or is that something that's a repeatable task, which I guess we can get into a little later, but is it a repeatable task that you can pay somebody else to do, and all you have to do is check over the work? And I was like, that makes sense. And they actually helped me figure out who on my team would be best suited for that. So that wonderful person is getting that task today. But we were talking about productivity, and I know it is one of the pillars that you have for getting stuff done. And would you share what those pillars are, and then maybe we'll dig a little deeper into the productivity part of it?
Yeah, so it's a 4-pillar process that I've worked on over the last couple years. And it starts with purpose. So figuring out what your purpose is, what do you want to go after, what do you want to achieve, right? And you could do this for small individual activities, or for lifelong careers, or just, overall what you want to do. Then after you have your purpose, the next step you want to do is have your plan, right? Your plan is, how are we going to actually get this thing done? What's the process? What's the big vision? What's the plan? The next step after that is production. So this is where you produce, you go out there, you make it happen, you execute, you produce. Productivity. These are all P words, or words that align with this phase. Is the step 3, what I consider the phase that I'm personally an expert at, and I think it's very important to get this stage right. And then the final stage is profit, because we live in a world, a capitalist society, and we all have to figure out ways to pay for our food, the roof over our heads, and just continue to work and earn an income, so that way we can continue to do these things that we love, continue to make impact in our communities, continue to grow our business and serve our customers as well as our employees, and just continue to grow. So the one that we're going to dive into is the produce part. So I'll throw it back over to you, Anna, and I'm happy to dive into that based on the direction you want to take this.
Well, productivity, let me get back here just a minute. See, I told you this was smooth. I guess maybe not so smooth. But what I really love, I'll be honest, is as we're trying to be productive. So I think there's another P word that you and I didn't really discuss, but I think that it's an important P word to put in perspective. There's another P word, but and it's perfection. There is so many times that trying to be perfect interferes with all of this getting stuff done, but particularly production, because we'll do purpose. I've got the purpose. Woohoo! I know what I want to do. And then I make the plan. Ooh, that's so fun. Like my roadmap. And I got my what is it? The Kaizen board, or my Trello board, or whatever you're using for, managing your tasks and your projects. But then you start to sit down, and I know I have this trouble. Maybe you don't, but all of a sudden you look at everything and you go, oh my gosh, what if? There's so many what ifs, and suddenly we're frozen. How do we start to step into production without being overwhelmed? Because even our own plans can overwhelm us, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I would recommend, when it comes to that, I personally, I literally get excited about the production of something. Somebody comes to me, oh, I have an idea, and my brain immediately thinks in Post-it notes. I have this big whiteboard behind me. All these have a chalkboard. So there's all these pins and all sorts of stuff. So I dive in and I start seeing that. And what we have to kind of force ourselves to do is stick to the plan. Just make the planned version first. Complete the planned version, and then from there go back and make version 2.0. This one has all the bells, this one has some whistles, this one has some dings and dongs and all the things. But if we execute on the planned version first, then we use that extra time, if there is any, to have fun with it. And I say use the extra time to have fun with it, because what happens is that when we are in work mode, it's really easy to have a lot of ideas. Your imagination starts going, going crazy. You're finding out about this tool. You're finding out about this product. Oh wow, I originally wanted it to be yellow and black, and now I accidentally clicked navy blue, and let's explore that. You're in this explorative stage, and it's just in our nature as humans, right? We're explorers. We're nomads. That's the root, right? When people think of, for example, the mental health, like ADHD, that was our natural state for millions of years, right? Thousands of years. The human state was, okay, we're gatherers, we're hunting, we have to be on lookout, we have to be paying attention to, all the different things happening at once. That was how we operated. And now that we are in, 2021, we have, sit at your desk, sit at your computer, be behind your screen, focus on one thing, right? One career path. You don't have to be hunting and gathering. Or nature will put us back into that mode once we start working on something. We get really excited. We get really distracted. We want to go on social media. We want to test it out. We want to launch it now. We want to add the different colors. So I would just say complete the planned version first. So that way, when you're exploring, if you don't get to finish that one in time, you still have the version that is in your plan, the version that you already thought through, the version that was already approved by whatever teams that are necessary, the version that's good to go. And then if you have the version 2.0, that's all the fanciness to it, then you can amplify it. You could go back in and say, hey, I launched 1.0, but guess what? Here's 1.1. We see this every day with different apps and softwares and tools that we use where they're adding on things, right? What iOS system are we on now? Who knows? What Facebook version are we on now? Who knows? But every day it's an iteration, but they did start by executing that first initial plan. A lot of times you call this your MVP, your minimum viable product, right? The first smallest executable version, and then go back in and add all the glitter.
Yeah, and you made a statement, or just there's one word that caught my attention, and I think it's really an important word because it plagues so many of us, and particularly small business owners and entrepreneurs, and it's a D word. It's a D word called distraction. I recently had a conversation with one of my assistants because she was making a lot of errors. Valuable person, don't get me wrong. She's wonderful. She's very talented, and she's very smart, and she's very trustworthy, and she's a hardworking person. But I realized that mistakes were following her everywhere. And what was happening was she'd start on a task, and then the phone would ring. And so she'd pick up the phone. And then she'd be done with that. And then something else, you see this piece of paper. It's almost like, what is it that the dog on Up does? Squirrel. This woman has squirrels everywhere. And before she knows it, I sat down with her at the end of the day and I said, okay, you need to do X, Y, and Z. And she goes, oh, well, that's going to take me another hour. And I'm like, why didn't you get it done earlier? Well, I watched her one day and I realized she was all over the place because she allowed these distractions to just come in and rob her of her focus. So sometimes we're entrepreneurs. Let's just talk about the person who is learning how to outsource and maybe just starting their business, and they feel like the weight of the world is on their shoulders and everything depends on them. How can we help them? What is a tool or a couple of tools you would recommend to somebody who needs to eliminate those distractions, or at least deal with them differently so that they can get stuff done? Yeah,
so there's a few different methods that I use because you get distracted by your method of non-distraction. So it's a whole mess. It's a whole mess, you guys. Again, we're living in this 21st century world. Our brains have not caught up to the lived experience, right? And so, I have a bunch of stuff on my desk, and I cleaned up this side because, so I have a notebook, and in this notebook, it literally said, I don't know if you guys can see it, GSD task, May 2021 until whenever this notebook is full. We're up to, we have about a third of the notebook left. And so I make task lists for everything. When I'm taking notes, when I am, whether it's personal things, my notebook fell. Whether it's personal things, whether it's work things, it's going on that list. And so I'll try to see if I can see like a list. So I'll end up with like a 2-page list like this, where it's just like everything that I need to do. I know I will forget. and I tell people this all the time, I live and I die by my Google Calendar. If it's not on my calendar, I'm going to forget it. So I use my calendar, I use my notebook, I have a journal. So I use as many tools as possible to keep track of what I have to do. And then, so that's one way. So, just having that list, if I think of something while let's say I'm mid-project, I'm typing up an email, oh, I have to call so-and-so to follow up about the invoice is still unpaid. I don't go try to follow up with so-and-so right now. I put this on my list, follow up with so-and-so about invoice. Then at least I get the urge satisfied because my brain is like, we need to do that thing right now. I'm like, writing it down allows me to feel that I've taken a step in that direction, which is making note that it needs to be done. And then I finish up the email. Then I look at my list. And if, following up with the invoice is the fifth thing on the list, well, it'll just be fifth. And I'll go on to the next thing one by one. And that allows me again to satisfy that need in an instant, but not take me away completely from the work that I'm doing. A next thing that I do is if I'm working on something that I know that will take a long time or has the potential to take too long, I set a timer. So it's like a little challenge, a little game. And I say, okay, I have to call JetBlue to figure out this flight for travel, right? This does not need to take more than 30 minutes. And if it does take more than 30 minutes from my time, it needs to be outsourced, period. I don't know who's going to do it. Whether my kid's going to call or my assistant, it's just not going to be done by me if it takes longer than 30 minutes. Set the timer on the phone, start on the task, and it's, at the top of my list. So I'm clear. Okay, I have to be focusing on doing this. And then I don't do anything else. Even if an idea comes up, I don't even entertain anything else at all for those 30 minutes. And by the end of those 30 minutes, if it's not done, guess what? It's outsourced. If it is done, great. It's ticked off the list and it had its dedicated true time. I hear my alarm and if I finish up early, it feels like a little surprise, like, oh wow, I got 10 minutes back. It only took me 20 minutes to do that thing. And then I allow myself to kind of, get distracted for those 10 minutes. And then I'm like, okay, now reground yourself. And, getting up from the desk, right? We've been home, especially with the pandemic, or folks that had, home offices before, like myself, we've really just been inside for a really long time. And so just reminding myself, okay, get up, go to a different room, as well as separating my workspace helps a lot with the distractions. I know not everyone can do this, but I do have a room in my house that is literally my office. It has the bookshelf. It has all my computers to the point where I don't even allow my computer. I've set up my computer that way I can't bring it to my bedroom. So if I don't finish up what I need to finish inside of my office, this notebook comes with me to the bedroom so I could write down all the things that I, think of in the middle of the night, but I'm not getting up unless, I'm figuring out a cure to something. I'm not getting up and coming all the way to the office to use the computer. This notebook is then like the Bible that I will start off with. Okay, now it's the next day. I'm at the computer. What do I need to do? Oh, wow, I had those 10 ideas overnight.
That's, I love it. So get on the calendar, which my calendar, now, what I do is I have a Remarkable. So I have one of these nice little electronic gizmos and, whoops, there it is. Now this particular one is what I'm taking notes on, but, for me, and everybody's different, of course, but for me, it helps me to actually take that and then write it down where I can reference it throughout the day. But I love your idea about don't take your electronics with you into the bedroom. It's, because I think it feeds us into staying awake. And yep. I'm guilty. I am so guilty. But, and as you were talking, there was, the thought came to me that maybe some of our listeners are thinking, but what if I lose that important thought? It's almost like we have to feel like we have to capture everything. Do you ever have that? And if so, do you worry about it, or do you just say, oh, that's just the way it is?
Yeah, and I'm trying to find like a document that I had. So I'm going to talk about 2 points. Like you said, not bringing the electronics into the room. And it's, your phone, I think, will more likely to come, but like the bigger ones, like the tablets and the computers, I try to avoid. And to the point where, and I'll talk about the phone one for a little bit, is that I saw that my phone, like I have an iPhone, so I have the screen time app. I have screen time turned on. So everyone, I think you could turn on screen time. And what it does is it shows you how much time that you've been on the screen every day of the week. And one week it said that I was on social media for 17 hours and 6 of those hours was just on TikTok. I produced no income generating content on TikTok. So what that showed me was that I was super distracted. So what I did, I printed it out. It was like a huge piece of paper. I don't know where it's at now. But I printed it out, pinned it on my board. I'm like, I can't spend 6 hours on TikTok. And I put a little note. What could you have done with these 6 hours? Right? Because it's in the middle of the night by my bed. Oh, I'm just gonna pick up the phone, watch some videos, laugh a little. And those are the distractions. In the middle of the day, I'm waiting for somebody's late to a meeting. I'm just gonna be on my phone watching a video or two, right? And so, completely deleting the app and then putting it in a apparent place of like how you wasted your time. So I'd recommend that as like one thing to help you when you're doing these things. Most Apple devices have screen time, whether it's your computer, your laptop, or your phone. So that's one source. And then the second thing that I want to touch upon is what you asked about if you feel like you're going to forget. So again, that's where the task list comes in. And I don't forget it because as soon as the thing pops up into my head, I'm in the middle of an email, it pops up, you have to check in on the invoice. You should create a funnel for your new ebook. It's getting written in the notebook. So this notebook literally, like, I have a computer here where I'm talking to you all, and then there's another computer over here to two screens to my, what is this, the right? So the notebook literally stays open at all times, no matter which screen that I'm on. And once something comes up, the pencil's right here. It's just literally going into the notebook. And then I'm going back to what I was doing. Oh, another idea, scribbling it into the line. And so that allows me to not forget about the idea. And if it's like a bigger idea where it's like a project that I'm having an idea about, not like something I have to do, then I just feed it. I just write down what I'm thinking. Then I go back to what I was doing. I don't take the next step. I just write it down. I capture it. That's the best way to describe it. I take a picture of it, capture it, and I put it into the notebook, and then I go back to what I was doing, and then I'll come back to it later when it has, a more dedicated time that I could truly dive into it, versus, losing the train of thought of what I'm currently working on.
Oh, that's good advice. That's good advice. Because I think a lot of us we're so afraid of losing, and I think we start to act on things because we're afraid we're never going to get to it.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's where the whole idea of, analyzing time or to making time to go through your list to start to see what is it. So what do you use as a criteria? I think this will be, we could go, I just keep thinking of more and more questions. So I'm writing them down because we're going to get you back, because this is really such an important topic. So many of us, and like I said, we end up at the end of the day, and we're just like, man, I don't feel like I got squat done. And really, we've probably accomplished more.
Mm-hmm.
We would feel better if we had a plan, if we had a system. So where was I going with that question? I don't remember now. Oh, well, she got really distracted.
No, see, but that's the natural thing. You get excited about one thing, and then everything else just like goes away. And it's I think it's natural in humans. And then if you're an entrepreneur or a business owner or somebody in a creative role, it's even worse for us, because that's just how our brain is functioning. I think it's like, right brain, left brain. We're always on like the bubbles and, science kind of brain. That's how our brain feels to us. And so it's just like, oh my God, I got to catch this one. I got to catch this bubble, pop that. Oh, what was I doing? I don't know.
Well, it came back to me what I was thinking. So we need to look at our activities so that we can have a focus and a purpose. And so I just figured this would be a really good way to end our session together. Is what do you do to, I think you alluded to it a little earlier, but how do you determine what stays on your list to do, to get done, whatever you want to call it, what you have to wait to do, and what is something that you need to outsource, or maybe you just need to say, great idea, not mine.
Yeah, so I struggled a long time to figure this out. And I'll start off by saying that I've been studying like entrepreneurship and what it means to be an entrepreneur for a long time. And I've come up with the fact that there's not just one type of entrepreneur. Entrepreneurship is literally a spectrum from entrepreneurship to full-blown entrepreneurship, serial entrepreneur. There's so many different phases into that. And then the second dimension is that what type of entrepreneur. So there's idea entrepreneurs that what they love to do every minute of every day is create ideas. You just have ideas. Then there's execution entrepreneurs where it's just like, it doesn't matter what the idea is. Their excitement comes from just doing it. I'm an execution entrepreneur. Then there's like an analyst and researcher entrepreneur that what they love is just collecting the data and figuring out how the data, makes sense. And we could dive into that another time. But I've determined that like I'm an execution entrepreneur. It does not matter what the idea is. I like to come in and execute, which has been bittersweet from my experiences, especially working with teams where not everyone is all about the execution. They might be a researcher, that may just be an idea person. So they're shooting out ideas and I'm like, oh, let's do it. And I start doing it. And I'm like, wait, you don't want to continue. And so the point I'm trying to make here is that you have to determine what things, what type of person are you first, right? What is your specialty? What is the thing that you're great at? Is it ideas? Is it cleaning up that raw idea to make it make sense with some data points? Is it researching and getting the data, or is it just going out there and doing the thing? So figuring out which box you fit into with that, and what things really bring you joy, because there may be a lot of things you can do, but which ones do you really want to do? So that's the first thing. Then with all the tasks, make list. Check off, I do in a simple format, and I'm working on something that people could take as like a like a document or a handout or like a checklist. But I usually make a list of all the things that I've had, and usually it's already in my notebook. Sometimes I type it up, and then next to it I say, okay, is this something that I like to do and I want to do? Check. Is this something that I can do? Then I might, I'll skip over it. So it's like, if I can do it, but should I really do this? Then I'll skip over that one and I'll come back and look at it. Can I make a video or a tutorial or an explainer? Or is there something, that type of explainer that way I could this thing gets done and I outsource it to my assistant? Yes, because that's something that we need to do for the business. Is this just a crazy, and then the next one, go to the next line. Is this just a crazy idea that seems cool, seems fun, and it was just nice to write? Okay, then it just stays in the notebook, and at a future time or date, then we could go and launch this, dog grooming business, even though I've never had a pet dog before, right? But we have the idea. We have a bunch of those inside of these books, and I have a series of them. Literally, it's like usually these books last me about 3 to 4 months, and I to the point where I even created like my own version. So I have like journals that I created to help people, kind of strategize and think through their workday, think through their whole lives, because it's just so important for us to, one, capture that thing, then be able to strategically go back into that list to figure out what should we be doing right now, because not because you can means you should. What should we be doing? What could we be doing? What could somebody else be doing? And what just, oh, that's just lovely. It's just like a nice little story to come back and look at, but just does not need to be on your plate. And sometimes maybe you have somebody in your network that you can say, hey, you already have a dog grooming business. I thought of this extra idea. I'm happy to share it with you and, talk through like my thoughts of it. Maybe get a cut if it's like a, some life-changing thing, but you don't need to get a cut. I've shared ideas with people's products about the execution of their products all the time, because again, that's what excites me. That's what I'm good at. That's how my brain works.
Absolutely. That's great. That's wonderful advice. And so obviously there is so much more we could go into. So this will not be your only visit to USA Biz Party. And hopefully what I would recommend the next time is don't do your dishes before you join us. Because we want you in person and not bleeding all over your phone, just letting you know.
All right. Okay.
Fair enough.
Fair enough.
Okay. Georgie, or do you prefer to be Georgie-Ann?
Georgie is literally the primary thing everyone calls me.
Okay. So how do people get in touch with you? Because you're working on some projects, but I know they're like, oh my gosh, I need to get some of this stuff. So how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, there's a lot of content on my YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/GSD with Georgie. You could also find me on Twitter and Instagram at GSD with Georgie, Facebook, LinkedIn. Literally everything is GSD with Georgie. And my website is also gsdwithgeorgie.com. So as soon as you type in GSD with Georgie on Google, it's me, I promise you. So check out some of that content, reach out. We have a lot of amazing things inside of the funnel right now being built out for you all to engage with. And there's a lot of materials, content, books, journals available online as we speak. My book, if I have a copy in there and I do not, you could definitely check out my book, The Art of Getting Shit Done. That's available on Amazon in paperback, Kindle, as well as audiobook. So definitely, various ways to get in touch, various ways to learn more, and various ways to do more. So thank you so much for having me, Anna.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And if you want to know more about us, here's what you do. You go to our Facebook page. So if you're watching this on Facebook, you're on my Facebook page. Please do like us and follow us there. We're also on YouTube. We meet every single Tuesday. We are going to be taking some longer breaks during the summer to kind of regroup, get ready for the fall. But we are going to still be doing our chats through the summer. Check us out Tuesdays, every single Tuesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And again, I want to thank Georgie-Ann for joining us today, making it through all of the things. She is truly a wonderful person. I've really enjoyed it. I know you have. And again, join us next week for the Twitter chat at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us on Twitter and reach out to me and follow me there.